Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Scoop podcast with Sam and Jordan. And today we will be doing our 2024 year in review episode. We're going to do our top 10 new releases of the year with some honorable mentions, and also our top 5 films that we watched for the very first time in 2024.
Yes. This is also take two for us. Our file was corrupted. So we had a dress rehearsal. So hopefully this one works out well.
So, how don't you start it off with your honorable mentions?
My honorable mentions that didn't quite make it into my top 10. I have Furiosa, Dune Part 2, A Different Man, Baby Girl, Maxine, Gladiator 2, Immaculate, and Rap World. Those were all some of my honorable mentions that I liked but didn't quite make the cut, but were very close to being in my top 10.
Yeah, a lot of ours are going to be overlapping, but some of my honorable mentions: Challengers, Maxine, Megalopolis, Conclave, Hitman, and Alien Romulus.
Nice.
And I'll start with my number 10, which is Civil War, the Alex Garland movie.
Which is also my number 10.
Yes, and this is starring Kirsten Dunst with Jesse Plemons, Kelly Spaney. We talked about this when it came out in last April. It's obviously fictional, but just the way they shoot it through the lens of photojournalism and the way they edit it with sound and black and white photography pictures. And I think Nick Offerman does a pretty good job in his role, and thought it was very, very good.
Yeah, I also really liked Kirsten Dunst. I'm a big fan of hers, but I feel like she really is doing the most acting that you can think of, like in a most recent role for her. Um yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked that it was kind of like apolitical in a lot of ways and was not specifically trying to get you to think or believe a certain thing about politics. It's more a war movie and a journalism movie than it is like a politics movie, which I think is good because it will hold up over time.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as dated. I mean, it's kind of abstract as to how far in the future it may be, or obviously they don't get into the details of the politics. So, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Wicked, which you have not seen. Um, I have a love-hate relationship with Wicked in that I saw it when I was very, very young on Broadway and had all the songs memorized and was just very, very into it. You kind of like had to be a theater kid in the early 2000s to you just it's a moment you just had to be there for. So when I heard they were adapting it, I was very weary of the fact that it would be adapted. And then when I was like, oh, it's Ariana Grande, like I just don't know if this is gonna be good. Like it sounds like a really bad adaptation. Like we don't have to adapt everything. And like I just was intent on not liking it, and I was really, really impressed by it. I'm like looking forward to rewatching it. I think it was a great adaptation that kind of held like reverence for the original. I joked about this in the first recording, but it's more political than Civil War.
Yeah.
And I think it's a movie that a lot of people will be emotionally impacted by. Cynthia Erivo is just insane, like just belting every song. She's just really, really, really good. And if this gets a lot of nods at the Oscars, like I A would not be surprised and B would not be mad. Um, it has its faults. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's a surprising hit for me. If you'd have told me a year ago that I was gonna love this, I would tell you you're lying.
Yeah, just from the build up and the trailer, I wasn't excited. I know Cynthia Erivo was going to be good because she's really good at singing and performing. Yeah, I was very hesitant about Ariana Grande, but I'm looking forward to watching it at some point with you.
When it's not $20 to rent.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be on one of the streaming sites soon.
Yeah. What's your
Um,
number 9?
my number 9 is The Wild Robot, which I believe you have higher, so
I
we'll
do.
talk about that a little more later. My number 8 is Furiosa, which you had on your honorable mentions. Yeah, I just thought it was really good. Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth. It's a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, which came out in 2015. Um, I just liked the beats of the story in this one. I really liked Furiosa's character development and how they go to different parts of the wasteland to get different things they need on their journey. And although it visually and maybe vibes wise wasn't as great as Mad Max Fury Road, it's definitely a top tier action thriller. So I really liked it.
Yeah, we today watched the George Miller magnum opus Happy Feet with Grace. It's just funny to consider that he made this and he also made that.
Wide range filmmaker.
And like Babe,
Mm-hmm.
which is also really funny. But yeah, I really liked, to be clear, Furiosa is my number 11. Like it's just outside of my 10. I really liked it. It's hard to follow up Fury Road. I think it's probably time for us to go through and watch all the originals.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really enjoyed Furiosa as far as like action popcorn movies for the year. I thought it was like really, really well done and did not get enough people to get their butts to the theater. I wouldn't say it's a flop, but like the turnout was poor relative to how good the quality of the movie was.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a lesser Oscar contender as well.
If at all.
Yeah, it might not get nominated for but one or two of the things. But so what's your number 8?
My number 8 is one of your honorable mentions, Megalopolis. It wound up in my top 10 because I'm looking forward to rewatching it a lot. I just think when it comes to directors being like, I'm going to do this movie the exact way that I want to do it without any guardrails. I'm going to self-fund it. I'm going to go above and beyond to make this exactly how I want to make this. This is like, for better or worse, the most recent example of someone just doing it exactly how they want to do it. And I think a lot of people really hated this movie because the acting is over the top. The script is objectively cringy and it's a very strange plot. But I can't really deny how much fun I had watching it. And everyone,
it's just a fun watch, I think.
Yeah, like
it's just really funny and weird, and
it goes there. Like it's just everyone really committed. Even the assignment was crazy, but everyone committed.
Now everyone's on the same wavelength of acting and contributing to this movie, even though it's just a crazy movie.
Oh yeah,
and most of it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It's, to me, vibe wise, is kind of similar to early, maybe episode 1, 2, or 3 Star Wars, where it's like cringy angst, high fantasy.
Yeah, I feel like it's very memeable with a lot of the dialogue.
Yes. But I can't deny that I had a really good time watching it. Aubrey Plaza does an incredible job. Adam Driver is just, I love him in anything he does, but he does a really, really nice job in this. It's a very chaotic film, and so I had a really good time watching it, and I can't deny I liked it, even if it was Megaflopolis to most people. What's your, is it number 8?
7.
Oh, you're number 7.
Number 7 is Gladiator 2.
Which was in my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I really liked, obviously, all the actors, Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington. I liked the outrageous parts of the water sequences and the rhino part, and I liked the ending message of less violent form of masculinity to come together and stop fighting at the end. I really thought that was powerful in this time. I still go back and forth on whether I like this more or less than the original, but I really like this one, so it's in my top 10.
My hot take is that I have never really liked the first Gladiator, but I really enjoyed this. Maybe that's because Pedro Pascal is in it. Maybe it's because Paul Mescal is in it. Maybe it's because I had a pizza while I was watching the movie. I don't know, but I had a really good time watching it, and I agree. I think the modern take on masculinity was like really nice. It was a nice touch. But I do preface this by saying probably don't go see this if you're like a purist about Roman, you know, like keeping with what was possible at the time. If you're like, there's no way they could have sharks in the arena at that time. Like, if you can't just shut up and like have fun, then like,
Yeah, Ridley Scott doesn't really care about that, I don't think.
no.
Because when his movie Napoleon was kind of not super historically accurate, so.
But like, I go to the movies for magic and popcorn, not for a history lesson most of the time. So I enjoyed it. I liked that one a lot.
So what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Luca Guadagnino's second movie this year, which is insane to say that he had 2 movies this year. This movie called Queer. It's got Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey playing the 2 main lovers in the movie. I am somebody who really enjoys beat literature. So this was an adaptation of kind of a duology that William S. Burroughs wrote, 2 books called Junkie and Queer. And they're sort of semi-autobiographical accounts of William S. Burroughs' life as an expat, having fled the country because at the time he had, quote-unquote, accidentally killed his wife. And so this is sort of his account of what happens when he has fled the country and is sort of exploring his sexuality and his desires in life while also being a drug addict. And I don't think everyone's going to like this movie. I don't think that it's a broad appeal type of movie, but the way that William S. Burroughs writes a lot of his books is very surreal, very like sort of magical realism. This book was kind of considered like unadaptable, and I feel like Luca really did it, and I'm happy with that. So I would have seen this had it been directed by anyone. It felt very similar to reading the book, and I was expecting it to be mediocre at best. I really enjoyed it. I think if you're somebody who likes, you know, that generation of literature, you'll probably enjoy this movie. Yeah, it's a great one. Daniel Craig is really, really, really good in it.
Yeah, that's another one of yours I haven't seen yet with Wicked, but I'm wanting to see that one as well. My number 6 is Rap World, which is on YouTube, on Connor O'Malley's YouTube page. It's 56 minutes long, so it's just right around a feature length. It's kind of like a crazy shot, guerrilla style, like in your face mockumentary of a night in 2009 where Connor O'Malley and his friends are trying to make a rap album, and they keep procrastinating, and they're just like hanging out and doing one crazy thing after another on this long evening. And then the ending is really funny because something happens that completely changes everything that's going on. I won't spoil it, but yeah, Connor O'Malley's been doing some great stuff this year. He also had a short film called Corey's that's on YouTube, and then a stand-up called Stand Up Solutions. And I think he's one of the up-and-coming comedians in the next few years. So Rap World is my number 6.
I really enjoyed Rap World. I thought it was one of the funniest things I've seen all year. You had to be just like a nasty little teenager or an early 20-something in the early 2000s to like fully resonate with a lot of the characters, because they're just like up to hijinks and shenanigans, like in parking lots, smoking cigarettes, they're kind of like loser burnouts, and it's really, really nice to watch. I would say it's like this generation's Clerks in a lot of ways.
It is a lot like Clerks. It's almost like they're doing nothing, but by doing nothing, they're making art. Even though within the film, they're not actually making their rap album art. But yeah, there's just a lot of funny cuts from one scene to another, and you think they're going to do something, and then like 5 seconds later, they're doing something completely different. I've seen it twice now, so I think it holds up. So I really liked it.
I want a 4K restoration.
Connor O'Malley, Criterion.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is the other Luca Guadagnino movie this year, Challengers, which I think was in just your honorable mentions.
Yes. I think it was my number 11.
This was truly just like the movie of the summer. This is the most like sexually charged electric movie that has basically no sex in it. like the sex is the tennis matches. The way that they film the tennis matches in this movie is insane. There's a part where the camera is the ball and it's being shot back and forth.
Yeah, the whole ending match is insane how they direct, how it's like shot.
Yeah. And I mean, the part where they shoot from underneath the floor is really crazy. And I feel like Zendaya just does an incredible job. I mean, what's better than just like Zendaya ripping two little rat boys into shape and just being like, who wants me more? Like it's kind of great. And the music is insane and
Yeah, probably the best soundtrack of the year.
like so good. And like I said, just like an electric movie. Great movie to see in a theater. One of the best like theater experiences I've had this year. I thoroughly enjoyed Challengers. I think it'll be fun to rewatch. So that means you're number
5?
5, yeah.
My number 5 is Anora.
And I have Anora a bit higher than this.
So what's your number 5?
My number 5 is I Saw the TV Glow.
Which just missed my honorable mentions.
Yes, directed by Jane Schoenbrunn. This is arguably the best queer film to come out this year. And I'm really pissed off about the fact that Emilia Perez is going to be named probably like the best queer film this year. Because it is not. Like, just objectively, it is not. And
I did not like Emilia Perez.
No. We did not enjoy Emilia Perez. If you enjoyed Emilia Perez, I'm happy for you, but I did not enjoy Emilia Perez. I think I Saw the TV Glow is a great movie that depicts the trans experience and the horror of what it's like to realize that you're trans. I myself am not trans, so I do not understand fully, but this is like a great movie to like kind of personify the horrors of what it feels like. Just to give you kind of like a quick little blurb about what the movie is about. It is a boy, Owen, and sort of this older girl, Maddie, that they both sort of become obsessed with this sort of like teenage, almost like a Nick at Night style spooky show. And they kind of swap VHS tapes of catching up on the recordings. I think for whatever generation you grew up in, it could be like The X-Files, it could be Twin Peaks, or it could be like Are You Afraid of the Dark if you were a 90s kid, or just like any of those types of shows. It's supposed to be kind of like that for them. And the lines of reality become blurred as to, are they living inside of the TV show or are they watching the TV show? And I thought it was just a really beautiful movie and a really great experience to see in a movie theater. Really, really atmospheric, really chilling, but also really, really heart-wrenching and emotional. And the soundtrack is just awesome. It's a great soundtrack. And I think I don't think it's necessarily a movie everyone's going to love, again, because it's stylistically just very specific. But like if you enjoy a lot of like neon lit nostalgia, you'll probably really enjoy something like this. And
yeah, I really like the cinematography and all the different colors they use.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was really good too.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting into the nitty gritty.
So my number 4 is Nosferatu.
Ooh, my number 4 is Nosferatu.
Yeah, we just saw this in the theater recently, and it was really good. I really like Robert Eggers and all his movies. I think Lily Rose Depp gives probably the best performance in any of his movies.
I feel like Lily Rose Depp gives the best performance in any movie to ever exist.
Yeah, she like does a lot of body mannerisms where like she's having an exorcist or she's like moving her tongue really crazy.
She literally is doing like The Exorcist. Like she's literally doing that type of stuff. I don't know how she does it.
Yeah, then it's like Bill Skarsgård is this Count Orlok guy. So it's a remake of the 1922 movie Nosferatu. It's basically a ripoff of Dracula. With a few elements of the story changing, and Willem Dafoe's in, and Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor Johnson. It's a really good cast. The production design, the costume design, it's really great. It's set in the 1830s in Europe, and Robert Eggers is known for doing a lot of research and meticulously crafting the environment. I think this is a really great gothic experience, and I really enjoyed it.
I also feel like it's kind of an iceberg movie. Like, you can just go in and enjoy it for how beautiful it is and how creepy it is and how scary it is. But like, I'm excited to rewatch it because I feel like it's kind of saying a lot with very little. It's got a lot of like allegories to the plague and, you know, feminism and sexuality and
like science and anti-science.
Yeah. There's just a lot going on there that will be interesting to rewatch. But yeah, I mean, an insane theater experience and truly one of a kind. I've never seen something like this.
So what's your number 3?
My number 3 is The Wild Robot,
which was my number 9.
Yes. And I put it high on my list, not because I think it's like an incredible feat in filmmaking or anything. This is my personal top list. You know, I have a particular set of taste. Like, I just feel like this movie really resonated with me as a parent. It's a movie about a robot that basically has to save a baby goose after the robot accidentally kills the baby goose's family, and saves. I mean, that happens at the very beginning of the movie. It's not like a spoiler, but basically the robot becomes the mom and the baby goose.
She's going to teach it how to fly and all these things.
I just think it's like a really heartfelt, touching movie about like raising a child for the first time and being like, I am this type of thing and you are a completely different type of thing. And I'm trying to relate to you and understand you. And there are things that we have in common, but we're also sometimes very, very different. And I just thought it was like such an important movie for me to watch at the particular time that I did. There is a quote that basically the goose says at one point to the robot that says, "What happened was not your fault, but what you did to fix it was everything." And I know that's specific to this story in this movie, but it also feels kind of like all encompassing of younger generations to the current generation of parents and what we've done with humanity and what we've done with technology and what we've done with climate crisis and politics and everything. Like,
that part really got to me as a young parent.
I just think it was a really beautiful movie. I also think Pedro Pascal does a really good job at making a fox hot with just its voice. But yeah, I just thought it was a beautiful movie, and I'm excited to rewatch it and cry my eyes out again because it's definitely a cry-worthy movie.
So my number 3 is Hundreds of Beavers, which technically came out in some festivals in 2022 and 2023, but it was officially released and distributed this past April on Prime and other platforms. So it's kind of a 2024 movie. It's hard to describe, but it's like almost a silent film. It's like black and white, and it's about this fur trapper guy who's kind of like on his own in the snow in the wilderness trying to survive, and there's all these different animals and human-sized mascot costumes, and it's just tons of slapstick physical comedy and jokes that build up on each other, and quick little 2-second audio funny things that happen, and then quick cuts, and there's even some video game elements about how some of the animation is done.
Yeah, it's definitely a singular movie. Like, the closest thing I can think of is like old Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin, because it's like nearly dialogueless. Like, there's no actual lines of dialogue in the whole movie for the most part. There's lots of like exclamations and silent film card captions and stuff like that. But it's really crazy to see somebody like do something like that now and not have it be like The Artist, where it's just like, oh, we're going to do the silent movie thing, but now. And it feels very fresh and original. And it's also extremely fast paced. You had said it at one point that if you look away, you're going to miss a gag.
Yeah, I've seen it twice, and the second time I watched it, there was definitely parts that I picked up that I didn't see the first time.
Yeah. It's a fun watch for sure. It's definitely a watch with like a warm beverage or some soup because it's just all in the snow. Every beaver is in a mascot costume. It's really goofy. I had a good time watching it.
So what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Anora.
Yeah, I really liked Anora too. I was my number 5. Great performance by Mikey Madison. I liked how the story progressed. This is by Sean Baker. What did you like about it?
I really like Sean Baker as a director. I really liked his movie, The Florida Project. I really want to kind of sit down and watch more of his movies pretty intentionally. He tends to gravitate towards subject matter that is like sex workers or the impoverished or young people, like scrappy people. And I like that because I find it to be like a subject that doesn't usually get the right directors to direct movies like that. Like they tend to be the B character or they end up being sort of like the butt of the joke character. Sean Baker just does a really nice job at showing the rawness without glamorizing being broke. The way he saturates like every frame is really, really pretty. I think that like Anora in general is just a movie that I really connected with because Anora is a very strong female character and is willing to claw her way out of a not great lifestyle because she wants more for herself. I just think that it's a movie that if you've ever been young and you've been in love before, you will understand. And if you have like a younger teenage version of yourself inside of you that was like, no, but really, no, daddy, I love him. Like, I think you will get this movie. And I also think that the way the movie ended is just like completely gut wrenching and really, really powerful. The movie is like a very simple, straightforward plot. There's not like a ton of like depth as far as like you need to read in between the lines for a lot, but the ending really buttons it up and ties it together in such a way that you're like, I thought I was just watching like a fun movie, and all of a sudden I feel like that hurt, and like
it gets really emotional at the end.
Yeah,
in a good way, and I like how it resolves the story.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I'm like a sucker for strong female lead characters, and um yeah, my review for this is probably the best way to sum up this movie. It's, when people ask you which Disney princess would you be, I'm about to start telling people I'd be Anora because it's a very like Disney princess like story where it's like rags to riches and it flips that on its head. And I'm excited at the prospect of this getting nominated or winning anything at the Academies. It will be exciting to see something like this get its flowers publicly. So what's your number 1?
Well, my number 2 is The Substance.
Oh.
Which is your number 1. My number 1 is Dune Part 2.
Talk about Dune, because that's in my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I really liked it. There's so many great elements to it. It's hard to deny it being my favorite. Just great performances all around. The cinematography, the score, the fantasy epicness of it. I thought it was better than the first Dune. So, yeah, I just really liked how they incorporated the newer characters and the Austin Butler part, Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken. This movie had more Zendaya than the first film. I think we all knew it was coming, but I think this was like the grand announcement that Timothée Chalamet is the number 1 actor in the world right now. Because he basically came off of the first part, and then he did Wonka as his like solo musical, and then he did Dune Part 2, and now he's also going to do A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie, which he'll probably get nominated. So like he's like definitely the it guy right now.
The it guy, yeah. I could have told you that, but
yeah. Then The Substance, Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore. I just thought it was really great take on a lot of things, how women have to portray themselves and get ready, and the whole aspect of Hollywood and getting older and your younger self growing into your old self, and how if you like you just take the substance, and the body horror transformation stuff was really well done, and there wasn't a dull second in this whole movie. It just kept going and going, and the final act is probably the craziest final act in any of these movies we're talking about. So I just thought it was pretty perfect, and it just barely missed out on being my number one.
Yeah, to talk about Dune Part 2, I liked Dune Part 2 better than the first Dune as well. I felt like it was a more dynamic movie as far as exploring the aspects of, Timothée Chalamet's character and just the progression of like him being the savior of these people allegedly. And I mean, I like more Zendaya screen time. That is a plus for me. So I really liked Dune Part 2 quite a bit as well. And to talk about The Substance, yeah, that was my number one movie for this year. It's hard to talk about The Substance and say something original because so many people have hyped this movie up as being just like the most batshit insane movie you'll see all year, because it is. It's the most insane movie you'll see maybe this decade at this point. It's insane to me that this is getting recognition. I'm shocked and excited that it's getting recognition, but I feel like the message behind what's going on with this movie is powerful and resonates with a lot of people. The movie Poor Things last year obviously resonated with me as well. And the thing that they have in common is that they're body horror feminism. And I like that type of niche sub nano genre. I think it's really hitting home with people in a post Roe world. And also the fact that the farther along we get as a society, not to get like, we live in a society, but I think as antiquated as it sounds, I think people are just now coming around to realizing exactly the horrors of what beauty standards are and what the internet is doing to women, and what, these ungodly standards that people inflict upon each other as far as, how you should look, how you should behave, how you should be. And I just think Demi Moore is just insane in this movie. Like, she just puts her all into it and just embodies the character so well. And this was a truly nauseating movie. Like, it was really, really gross to watch and would be hard for me to rewatch, but I know it would be just like an incredibly fun time to rewatch. But again, I wouldn't watch it with food. It's fucking gross. I also I had my phone on me when I watched this because I was like, I know this is going to get gross. So if I need to look away at points, I have my phone, but I didn't want to look away at a lot of points. Like, it was that insane that I just was glued to the screen for the entire time of the movie. Truly a nightmare movie and beautiful at the same time. I really loved it. I thought it was great. And happy to see female stories, female directors being top dog this year. A majority of my top 10 is very, very, very woman centric, and passes the Bechdel test in a lot of cases, so can't complain. It's been a really good year for feminism movies, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
So we're also going to go over our top 5 first-time watches of 2024, and that we're going to exclude obviously 2024 movies and some of the 2023 movies that we watched early last year. So I'll start off with my number 5, Sexy Beast from the year 2000, directed by Jonathan Glazer. We watched this early last year during the time when The Zone of Interest came out. By Jonathan Glazer, and yeah, this is just a good, funny, crime thriller where the main character is just trying to get a tan by the pool, but he gets dragged into one last job, and Ben Kingsley is out of control, and it's just a really good watch.
I liked that one a lot. The accents are really thick and juicy.
Yeah. What's your number 5?
My number 5 for the year that was not released last year is 2020's Soul, the Pixar movie. I cried my eyes out. I thought it was great. Definitely a movie that makes you, it's life affirming, makes you feel good, kind of makes you feel like actually maybe I am going to be okay and maybe life is worth living. I'm sad to say I did not watch this in 2020 because I think this was the movie everybody needed in 2020 considering, COVID pandemic and stuff, but it's never too late to have a great life affirming experience in 2024. Every year brings more horrors of different colors and flavors. So, yeah, that was my number 5. What was your number 4?
My number 4 is The Hidden from 1987. This is a sci-fi action thriller with Kyle MacLachlan. It's just an outrageous movie where basically one alien inhabits the body of a human on Earth and is just riding around in his car going crazy and listening to loud music. And Kyle MacLachlan is basically a detective trying to capture this alien, and it just is a crazy script and one of the better 80s movies that I hadn't seen before. So what's your number 4?
My number 4 is the Safdie brothers 2017 movie Good Time. I don't know how a lot of people haven't seen this. Robert Pattinson is insane. He's so good in this movie. If you've seen Uncut Gems or if you like a good fast-paced thriller, this is a perfect movie for you. If you like Robert Pattinson, this is a perfect movie for you. If you like a good crime thriller in general, this is a really good movie. I had a really good time watching it. It's super atmospheric. I just think Robert Pattinson is just top dog. He's so good at acting, and I've always fucking known it since Twilight, even though he sucked in Twilight. I'm just so glad that I've been a fan for so long to see him actually be good and stuff. I saw something recently where he was on the street somewhere and someone was like, "Oh, you're Robert Pattinson. Why'd you quit acting?" And he's like, "I played fucking Batman a few years ago. What do you mean?" I think there's a point in time at which he'll get major, awards and stuff, and I'll be like, I always knew it. But yeah, this one's a really good one, and I would rewatch that in a heartbeat.
It seems to me like he'll probably at the very least get nominated in the coming years.
Oh, I hope so.
My number 3 is To Live and Die in L.A. from 1985 by William Friedkin, with William Peterson and Willem Dafoe. It's kind of like a crime thriller, great car chase sequence, great music, great original song, classic LA vibes, West Coast vibes, and it's one of the few movies I've seen where the main villain's just printing money, and it's just really funny how Willem Dafoe acts as the villain. And
they show the actual money laundering.
And yeah, we watched this for a Finer Things pick, so I saw it twice last year, and I really liked it.
I saw it twice with you, and I think, was this our first 4K movie that we got? One of the first,
yeah. I got on 4K, and it was one of the first ones we watched. Yeah,
I think it was a blind buy.
Yeah, I heard so many good things about it, and it was never on streaming, and I finally decided to just take a chance on it, and it was really good.
Yeah, the song itself is just makes the movie so good. I mean, the movie's really, really good, but the song is always stuck in my head. So, my number 3 is Moonstruck, with Cher and Nicolas Cage. I rented it from the library, because I was like, oh, a cute romance with Cher. I'm gonna have at least a halfway decent time. And Nicolas Cage is playing a freaky little guy that's missing part of his hand, so I know it's gonna be good. I didn't really realize how good it was gonna be and how wonderful and warm it is. I mean, Nick Cage is just being Nick Cage, being really over the top in the movie, but him and Cher have just such a great on-screen chemistry, and it's sort of but I don't know how to explain it. It's like they're not meant to be together, but they really should be together type of couple. And there's a lot of Italian family drama and a lot of good on-screen food and lots of dogs, lots of New York iconography. And, you know, I'm not Italian by any means, but I am Mexican. And so I relate a lot to just like the chaotic family dynamics of people being in your business, not knowing how to shut their mouths, nobody having a filter, everyone expecting things from you. And I just thought it was a really, really cute movie. And I loved showing it to you too. That was a really fun time.
Yeah, it's my number one. I really loved it. Pretty much everything you said. I just thought, it was just a great story, romance, and the elements with the moon and how everything just came together. I mean, it was just really good. My number two is Taste of Cherry, 1997.
That's my number one.
Yeah, so our list was kind of similar, but yeah, you watched this before me, and then you watched it again when I watched it for the first time. And just real quick, I'll say most movies that I end up liking, I like the cinematography, I like the vibes from the film. I guess it's just like this one takes its time. It has pretty wide shots of this car going along the desert, kind of like elements of Drive My Car that I liked a few years ago, but it's a very life or death situation story where something so simple can change somebody's life around. And I really appreciate how the main character went about eventually having a taste of cherry.
Yeah, that was my number one, and I kind of gave away your number one. I'll quickly talk about Taste of Cherry, and then I'll mention my number two. Yeah, Taste of Cherry was a movie that I knew I was going to enjoy because of just the aspects of the plot itself. And I like movies where two people are talking in a car. I like heavy dialogue movies. I like good character studies. Nothing can happen in a movie, and if two people are talking in a car, I'm probably sold. I'm just a sucker for like good dialogue. It's kind of like an arid, empty atmosphere. It's an Iranian film, and so it's not exactly like a very beautiful, pretty film, but the way that just they play with like light and shadow, with this guy's like silhouette in the movie is just life-changing and beautiful. And I also just think it's a movie that if you're a person that's ever, been depressed before or gone through grief or ever been like, is life worth living? Should I like keep this going? I just can't handle any more pain. Like similar to Drive My Car in a lot of ways. It's definitely a movie that just gives you some like really thought-provoking points to consider. And it's definitely a movie that will probably stick with me for the rest of my life and will definitely be one of my favorites forever. My number two we jumped around a little bit here, but my number two is the 2019 movie Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This year, no spoilers, but we are trying to watch more French movies. We'll probably do like a French episode or a few French episodes coming up. Trying to be more intentional at watching, old French movies, new French movies. I happened to watch quite a few last year by accident, so I thought, why not make it intentional this year? And Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I've always heard is sort of like a certified banger. Can confirm. Very, very good. Beautiful, beautiful, woman loving woman story. Again, a really great movie for dialogue and like character development, character study, and like the shadow self and the parts of yourself that you're like not willing to admit to. But again, also just a great movie for the setting. It's like
a great atmosphere with the candle and fireplaces inside, but when you go outside, it's like they're on the beach and the ocean shore tide keeps coming in, and I really like that too.
It's just a really beautiful movie, and it's also really emotionally impactful at just like embracing the moments you have with someone, even if you know that it's maybe not meant to be or that you won't have each other forever. I just thought it was a really great movie that probably everybody should see if you like movies. It's a great one. Honestly, all five of my favorites, I could maybe recommend to just about anybody because they're just the moviest of movies that we saw last year. Like I saw over 250 movies last year. That's not talking about like rewatches and stuff. That's, first time watches, new to me in the year. And so,
these are like the top 0.5%.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And again, I mean, I know I have like a particular taste for Jerry. No, taste for specific types of movies and stuff. But, I think when you see enough movies, you can kind of pick the cream of the crop and be like, most people are probably going to enjoy these. And I am most people. So, yeah, I know you saw a ton of movies this last year too, but I think it's funny that a lot of my favorites were ones we watched together or ones we've showed each other. And I like that. I enjoyed watching movies with you this last year.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.